Picture the shyest female friend, relative, or loved one you know. A real introvert. She can't stand parties, and playing the dating game is her idea of a living hell. You won't catch her dead in a bar. But imagine someday, everything changes. She's suddenly more relaxed, more outgoing. She goes out to parties, and now you keep seeing her with this one guy. Again and again and again. It seems like these days, all she does is spend time with this guy. And to think he's never even introduced himself to you. He's practically a total stranger. But your friend seems happy enough, so it doesn't bother you. Until one day something strange happens. Your friend just starts screaming. You can't explain it. She can't explain it. Her doctor can't explain it. Nobody can explain it. All you know is that for months on end, she has involuntary screaming fits, like something out of a nightmare. But still, she always smiles. She seems happy, as long as you don't look at her eyes. There's something oddly glassy about them. They seem plastic, dead. Your friend is experiencing a dangerous phenomenon known to the SCP Foundation as SCP-3512, an anomaly that only seems to affect women between the ages of 18 and 40. One woman is already dead as a result of this, and an additional 9 others affected by this strange anomaly have been cataloged and contained in standard humanoid containment chambers for study. At first, the Foundation couldn't draw any logical conclusions for why these women were spontaneously experiencing total personality changes and pronounced screaming fits. All the Foundation had to go on was that the first cluster of infected individuals originated in Barcelona, Spain. A Foundation facility in Boston dispatched one of their best field operatives, Agent Riley Cooper, on an investigative mission to Barcelona. They wanted her to get to the bottom of this phenomenon and put a stop to it before things went any further. While in Spain, Agent Cooper would be assisted by a local Foundation operative, Agent Tomás Rey, whose intimate knowledge of the locale would provide a key advantage in the investigation. Together, they'd crack this thing and make sure no other women were harmed. At least that's what the Foundation had hoped. Instead, both agents disappeared under horrific circumstances during the investigation. And today, we're going to tell you about the final days of Agent Cooper and Agent Rey, and why attempting to investigate SCP-3512 was the last thing they ever did. Agent Cooper arrived on the 15th of July 2016 and stepped out into the scorching summer heat of Spain. Agent Cooper was everything you'd want in a field operative for the Foundation. Intelligent, dedicated, and professional. She rendezvoused with Agent Rey, who was a comparatively smooth and laid-back figure. The two of them began their investigation by speaking to the friends and families of some of the infected women, pretending to be doctors working for the World Health Organization. Agent Cooper, in her personal diaries, noted how creepy and unreal the affected women seemed. Most of the interviews were unnerving and sad, but not exactly enlightening. However, as things drew to a close, a younger sister of one of the victims mentioned a single word: blackout. Even the mention of the word caused the victim to descend into another screaming fit. Agent Rey's local knowledge came in handy once again. He recognized the name. It was a popular local nightclub. Agent Cooper and Agent Rey knew they had to investigate the club and went undercover as regular patrons. For the first several hours they were there, nothing happened. But then at 2 a.m., a man approached Agent Cooper at the bar. He was a tall, blonde man with an unsettling intensity to him. He asked, without a hint of irony, what Agent Cooper's favorite star was. There was something off about this man. His word choice was too precise, almost rehearsed. He wasn't drunk in the slightest. Agent Cooper intuited that this was the kind of guy who liked to take advantage of women in bars. When she threw a glance at Agent Rey, signaling him that something was off, the stranger quickly left. For Agent Cooper, this only further confirmed her suspicions. The agents paid off the bouncer to find out if the tall stranger was a regular, and then what his name was. After being slipped some cash, the bouncer was all too eager to share. This strange man came here all the time, and he knew his name too. It was Josep Oriol. Agent Cooper and Agent Ray wasted no time in finding Josep Oriol's apartment and receiving authorization to perform a comprehensive search on the premises. And as soon as they did, they found cause to declare the man a person of interest in the SCP-3512 investigation. The apartment was a smorgasbord of suspicious activity. Oriol was a software developer, but he had extensive records on the architecture of the local area, including buildings, utilities, and railway tunnels. Josep correctly figured the investigators were coming for him and had fled his home before they could get there. And this was only the tip of the iceberg. Agent Cooper and Ray then found a book with a plain cover sitting on Oriol's kitchen table. Cooper thought it was a publisher's proof, a kind of pre-publication prototype copy of a book. They collected it but didn't read it straight away, worrying about its potentially cognitohazardous nature. And besides, they were a little distracted by the homemade monstrosity sitting next to it. It looked to Agent Cooper like a sculpted blob of wax, with a series of 12 makeshift legs made from a variety of substances, including Lego pieces, rose stems, a crab claw, and a corkscrew. Ray called Cooper into the bathroom, where there were a number of boxes filled with similar supplies: bodkins, quills, doll's limbs, wire, and syringes. When Cooper led Ray back into the kitchen to see Oriol's little art project, later classified by the Foundation as SCP-3512-1, they were surprised and unnerved to see that it was already gone. Everything about this situation screamed anomalous, and it only got worse later that night, when Cooper actually read the book she collected from Oriol's apartment, being sure to wear cognitohazard filtering goggles as a precaution. The book, now known to the SCP Foundation as SCP-3512-2, was entitled The More You Know, a pickup artist's Bible, and was written by a man using the pen name Enigma. As the title suggests, it was a misogynistic 625-page nonfiction book on the subject of picking up women. It even had a foreword on its effectiveness by popular American rapper Calvin Broadus Jr., better known as Snoop Dogg. Though after being contacted by the Foundation, Mr. Dogg claimed no knowledge of the book. The book began with your typical creepy and dehumanizing seduction tactics for the first 11 chapters, but the following 12 chapters, which were each titled Chapter 12, delved into increasingly creepy and esoteric techniques, including advanced geometric proofs, the interpretation of dreams, do-it-yourself surgical techniques, symbolism in architecture, and anomalous rituals. The book's afterword is composed of more than 15,000 anagrams of the book's title, laid out in spiral and triangular patterns. Cooper took a particular morbid interest in Chapter 18, where it appeared to provide instructions on creating objects that looked like the anomalous SCP-3512-1 sculptures found in Oriol's apartment. The chapter read, "Make a rough ball of the materials you've harvested and place it in the freezer for 6 to 12 hours. Pork fat can be used, but will have less satisfactory results." Who knew, right? While you wait, you can prepare the limbs. Concentrate on articulation rather than strength. You may want to add simple tools to some limbs, if the object of your desire is more careful than most. But remember that the more complicated you make them, the more precise your sculpting will need to be. Lay your prepared limbs out on a clean, flat surface. Once your adipose preparation has had time to freeze, carefully carve it into the shape you learned in Chapter 12. You will know it is ready when you see it start smiling at you. Now introduce the limbs. They should take almost immediately. Wait until your intended is likely to be sleeping. Then concentrate your thoughts on her face, and particularly the inside of her mouth and throat. Soon you'll see your new friends scurry off, ready to help you establish social dominance. If this wasn't disturbing enough, the next chapter advised the use of scissors and the removal of the aspiring seductionist's pinky finger, as well as the pinky fingers of their family members, to help increase their seductive power. It appeared to Cooper that these rituals and seemingly living anomalous sculptures were behind the SCP-3512 phenomena, and that night, they got their next break in the case. The two agents had sent the architectural plans found in Oriol's apartment back to Foundation HQ, and while most of it was found to be public records of the local area, there was one notable abnormality. a secret exit in a little-used subway tunnel that led to a grand spiral staircase, heading down to, well, they just didn't know. And it was the job of Agents Cooper and Ray to find out. They set out later that night on what they didn't know would be the last mission they'd ever take. The two agents descended the spiral staircase for what felt like hours until they reached an elaborate system of tunnels at the bottom. They began exploring the tunnels and found that they were cramped and covered in strange ritualistic carvings. Occasionally, they even saw clusters of human pinky fingers sticking out of the wall. They kept going and soon found that whatever they were moving towards was loud, immensely hot, and the smell was truly horrific. As the almost deafening mechanical drone got louder and louder and the smell grew worse, they knew they must be getting closer to whatever was happening here. The tunnel soon opened up to a giant chamber where they found something truly horrific. In front of them was what looked to be an entire river of bubbling liquid human fat, the exact kind that the author Enigma had recommended using to create the mind-altering SCP-3512-1 sculptures in his book. And speaking of the book, across the river, Agent Cooper and Agent Ray noticed a complex series of printing presses, presumably churning out more copies of The More You Know, a pickup artist's Bible, to spread its anomalous influence far and wide. However, before the duo could literally stop the presses, they were attacked. A huge 3512-1 entity with legs made out of human spines jumped down from the ceiling. It latched onto Agent Cooper, embedding her in its waxy body and dragging her into the disgusting river of hot fat. Agent Ray was separated and lost in the tunnels, presumed dead, as he hasn't been seen since. Agent Cooper, however, would live to see a far more horrifying fate. She was carried downriver by the greasy tide until her body was washed up in a different chamber that looked to be a place of worship below the Sagrada Familia Basilica, filled with thousands of tiny, crawling 3512-1s. There, she met the creator of all of this, a horrific thing that was perhaps once a man, now covered in wriggling, living pinky fingers sticking out of its body. It was disgusting, but she wouldn't mind for long. In fact, the next time Cooper woke up, she didn't have a problem with it at all. She was changed, just like all the others. Another victim of the SCP-3512 phenomenon. She was giggly, outgoing, and uninhibited, all despite the nightmarish situation she was in. She loved the horrifying monster that had done this to her. She didn't have a choice not to. And when he was tired of her, he took her and threw her down into a large pit in his chamber, the same one where the many dead bodies of his previous mind-controlled girlfriends were laying. Neither agent was ever seen after this. Mobile Task Force Zeta-9, aka Mole Rats, have been sent into the tunnels to investigate, but they didn't find any of the locations comparable to the ones seen by Cooper and Ray in their last hours. Whoever did all of this is still out there, still dangerous. So ladies, if you ever see a guy you know reading a copy of The More You Know, a pickup artist's Bible, run like your life and sanity depends on it, because this time, it really does. Now check out SCP-001 The Children Ouroboros Cycle and SCP-4999 Someone to Watch Over Us Tale for more records of mysterious phenomena from the SCP Foundation.